Consider, can the universe be justifiably called infinite? Doubtful. It may not have a discernible end, but it had a beginning. And its component parts definitely have a limited cosmological shelf life. Splitting hairs or not, if history tells us anything, it's that scientists often make very poor poets. We're all just a ship of fools chasing phantoms, heedless of what really underwrites natural law.
Greetings, podcast excursionists! By dancing with fate, you have deliberately swayed into the meticulously crafted mindscape of 3 out of 10 anime fans who recommend you check out this podcast. No, fair mobile dweller, it is too late. Your predestined descent through this void of blissful entertainment has begun. A compendium of curated conversations bound by the sweet nectar of perturbation lies beyond the precipice of thought and the threshold of collaboration, where a Cerberus scrupulously judges those worthy to consume. A tome of aggregated musings and whims forged into calculated factors, which are consumed more smoothly than a cold milkshake on a summer's eve, despite the heat of Evan Black Refiner's flame. Turn not from the path upon which you have chosen to pursue, for we are in this together. Join me, Hououin Kyouma, and my lackeys christened DeGraw 003 and Spaceboy 002, as we tread the murky waters of personal enjoyment and technical rankings for what could only be considered one of the most quintessential and technical pieces of animated art in history. Yes, we enter Steins Gate! With eyes and hearts wide we throw our hands and discretion to the cold breath of lachecies and usher in our own provenance. Without further ado, and laden with spoilers, lab member 002, how would you recap Steins Gate in one sentence?
Hold up. Let's give him a round of applause, guys. That was amazing. What? That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Well done, sir. Well done. We're starting the anime now. We're starting the podcast. That's what we're doing.
Yes.
That's what those words meant. We don't have subtitles here. You know what I mean?
Maybe I'll add them in post.
All right. So, I obviously am lab member 02. So, oh wait, no, I'm not. Hold on. No, the numbers are in the script.
That is Spaceboy 002.
Yeah, all right, Spaceboy, go for it.
A slow ramp into insanity with some time shenanigans at play.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Raiden.
And I am unfortunately short of words. Brett took them all, for which I could possibly describe my amusement, enjoyment, on my first and hopefully many future rewatchings of this anime. It's just fantastic.
All right. My one sentence will be one of the greatest anime I have ever seen. In technical accomplishment, in enjoyment, in every imaginable way, a true masterpiece in writing.
That, at least, for sure. And writing, at least, for sure.
Okay, let's.
True.
If some of my verbose diction previously has caused anyone to miss some of the key points of the intro, just as a heads up, lots of spoilers. We're going to cover everything, the entire show. We're not doing Steins Gate 0 or the whatever, just the original series first. Mm-hmm. And we're going to do personal enjoyment to start, then go into our technical assessment. We give scores from 1 to 10, and then we give some recommendations at the end for what you should watch next. And then finally, we talk about what show we're going to be doing next week's podcast as well. There could be considered some mature content in the show, just as a heads up for those listening. So let's give our personal enjoyment ratings.
Yeah, let's do that.
Brayden, do you want to go first?
I'm in a very zen mood. I've been watching Steins Gate all day. I've done the trivia. I'm sitting here now. I'm absolutely ready for this podcast. I'll absolutely go first. So, and I'm still holding this true. Steins Gate for me is a 9 out of 10 anime. The story is incredibly well paced. The characters are unique and dynamic, and I just treasure their words in my heart if I could remember them. Because you guys all know I'm so bad. I'm just so bad with character names at the least. Eventually I'll get these quotes down.
What makes a 9 show for you again? Remind us.
The only thing that's holding it back from a 10, that's what I was saying, is like amazing characters, great story from start to finish. The pretense of the show is incredible, and the only thing really holding it back is what I have finally reserved for my 10 slot are animes that actually changed my life. Like, there is incredible entertainment and things that I'll hold dear, like, I don't know, The Dark Knight or
Beastars.
Beastars, sure, yeah. But that I haven't been given anything tangible. It's not pushed past the entertainment barrier for me.
Okay.
That's the only precipice that it lacks on, because this is a stellar
So when
anime.
a show transcends the entertainment realm and actually impacts your like real life in the way that you live it or think about it, that's what makes it 10 for you.
Yeah.
Cool.
For instance, I think I mentioned this back when we did our stinking Sword Art Online review. That is a 10 anime for me, because I literally have been streaming for the last 10 years off a notion that I got from my headcanon of my love of Sword Art Online.
Love it.
You go back to that episode to kind of get more information on that, but that's a 10 anime for me.
Sweet. All right. Skylar.
All right. So my enjoyment rating for Steins Gate was an 8.5. And so for me, an 8 is a show that I seriously enjoyed, but it had its flaws, or it had just some uncomfortable things. And so I'll probably watch it again with others, but I probably won't watch it again alone. And I don't know, Steins Gate is also one of those things where, for me, an enjoyment, or it's like, once I've been through it the first time, that's kind of like the big impact for me. And so this just happens to be one of those stories where watching it again just doesn't have the same impact, just because of how, like, some of the turns that happen in the story are so critical to the emotion of the story itself.
I got a question on that, actually.
Yeah.
Have you tried watching it again? Or are you just not interested enough?
Just not interested enough.
Okay. Noted.
All right. I give Steins Gate a 9.99. It is as close as you could imagine to a 10. And for me, a 9 is a show that I love. And it's amazing. It was entertaining. I was engaged. But there's minor things that I don't like, or aspects that I don't really enjoy. And then a 10 is a show, for me, a 10 is not a perfect show, but it's a show that I enjoyed more than any other anime I have seen. So compared to all the anime I've seen, it's one that I either could not stop watching, or failed to find a single thing that I didn't like, or that I disliked so little that I just completely ignored and just was sucked in. So Steins Gate is a 9.99, which we don't have as a rating here. We go in 0.5s. So I have to round it down to a 9.5, because I round down, not up. So that's what.
Now I got to follow up on that with a question.
Yep.
I don't remember. Do you have multiple? Because you said there's one. It'll be the 10 rating is anime you love more than any other. Does that mean there's only one 10 rating for you, or are there multiple?
It's as much or more than any other. Because for example, let me give 2 examples. Since you asked, 2 of my 10 animes. One is To Your Eternity. Another is A Place Further Than the Universe. Completely different genres all together. They could not be more different shows. One of them I enjoyed from an emotional, wholesome perspective, and an art perspective, and a quality perspective. The other one I enjoyed for a characters and story writing and drama and intensity and romance perspective. So I enjoyed them on equal levels, but in different ways, more than as much or more than any other show. So Steins Gate, 9.99.
Good.
It's in my top 10. It's in my top 5, actually, shows of all time. So
Yeah, it deserves it too. It really does, crew.
So let's jump in then and talk about why we rated this show so high. And I would like to start by saying probably one of the most important things we could say, which for anyone listening, first, you need to watch this show. Second, you need to watch it dubbed. You must watch this show dubbed. There are moments of dialogue in this show. For example, in the first episode, Okabe says, "Oh, how fate does like to disabuse us of our whims." Oh my gosh, what a line. And in the subtitles, it says something similar to, "That's inconvenient." The dub is legitimately the greatest dub of any anime ever made, bar none. You must watch it dubbed. For Okabe alone, his dialogue is beyond exceptional. It's the whole reason for my big intro. Like, he's inspiring in his diction. So watch it dubbed.
Okabe, Ocarine, Hououin Kyouma, whatever you want to call him, is definitely the star of this show. Like 100,000,000%. I mean, that said, the other, like, we're talking about the dub here. This is where we're going to start gushing. We're gushing the dub because the other characters also have really, really good dubs.
Yeah, Maki says dub is great.
I want to shout out actually Daru, the hack, as it's called. Like, if there's a guy that's ever quintessential, like, potato eating, neckbeard, sticking form trolling hacker, it is Daru. Like, that English voice is immaculately perfect. I can never explain why, but it's phenomenal how they picked out these people.
And
then sorry, go ahead.
Yugo as well, and Ruka, their voice acting was great. I think Skylar might say that Mayuri's was not his favorite, and I can see that.
Yeah,
I think we've talked about that.
I don't know. I mean,
I liked it.
No, okay. Well, I can't. I literally have it pulled up here. There's a scene in like episode 6 or 7 where she's coming up the stairs, and she goes like this: When you're on a chicken bender, get a box of chicken tenders. Like, what is that line? What is that song? Somebody had to come up with that song and write it into the anime.
For that one though, I would throw that more into an enjoyment category of where I just found her voice personally annoying, but it definitely fit the character. It was definitely well done. I just found it annoying.
Yeah, fair.
So for me, that's an enjoyment doc, not a technical doc.
Did you guys try listening to the sub at all? Besides, your counter with the episode. How far did you get, Brett?
I have seen the show multiple times over. I tried watching the sub specifically to try and get through it, and I only made it a few.
The whole thing?
No, not the whole thing. A few episodes.
I was gonna say.
I made it a few episodes, and then what I started doing when I was listening to the dub. So for those who don't know, Skylar actually introduced me to anime originally, and he is a sub purist. Like hardcore, and I was trying to convince him. I'm like, no, trust me, watch the dub, please, trust me. And he was like, no, I don't want to watch the dub. And so then I went to the episodes, and side by side, I typed out the dub lines, and then I typed out the sub lines, and I'm like, do you see what I'm saying? And he was like, oh, wait a second. And then he watched it dubbed, and even he finally agreed that this dub is heads and tails above.
Yep.
Because I watched a couple episodes of the sub, and it was pretty normal, honestly. It's like pretty normal anime, which, since I've seen the vision of what this anime is, and its like best form, it just was this crazy fall from grace. It seriously affected my enjoyment of watching the show. because it normalcy is not what this anime is. It's just not there.
Yeah.
Once you've seen the light, it doesn't hit that bar
They
anymore.
literally
Normalcy is fine with every character but Okabe.
Yeah.
for him alone though, since he is 75% of the talking in the show, they literally had to rewrite the entire script. Someone had to come up with all of his lines for the whole show, and I got emotional just now thinking about how good it was. Like,
Bless their hearts.
holy crap.
They changed the world by doing that.
Seriously. Anyway, okay, we have way too much to talk about for this show than to focus on the dub too much.
I got a joke. I got to throw in a joke
Okay.
here. Maybe the writer came back in time and just did it over and over till he got it perfect. Just tossing it out there.
It certainly feels that way. Okay, let's keep going though. What other stuff do you guys like or not like about the show?
I'll take this opportunity.
Go for it.
Real quick. So I kind of mentioned this in my one sentence write-up, but one of the things, and this is another semi-doc that I gave it, is just how slow and long it took for it to ramp up.
Halfway, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, yeah, it took about half of the series for it to hit a point to where it hit that critical mass, and then it just took off. However, the reason that I say it's a semi-takeaway is that I have a personal philosophy of anybody can be a critic, but not everybody can improve or do something that's better. And so whenever I'm talking about a show and I dock at some points, I try to have at least an option of here are some things that they could have done to enhance or make it better. But with Steins Gate, I can't do that. I don't know how I would change those first few episodes so that it goes faster. I just don't know. And so that's where it's like, well, I can't dock them for it because I don't know of anything that they could have done to make that better.
It's like watching a gardener like till and plant seeds, and there's absolutely just dirt you're watching. And then you're like, wait, hold up. The crops are coming up, and that's crazy. That's delicious junkie. What did you do? You started so humbly, and now we have this whole bounteous feast ahead of us.
Yeah, and so, and really, like, this is the first time that I've had to bring it up, but whenever I critique something, it's always because there's something that I can see, like, if they would have done this better, or if they would have changed this so that they focused on this more, then I will dock them, but I can't dock them for how long it took to ramp up on Steins Gate.
The Skylar, to that point, my experience watching Steins Gate, so when I say that one of the criteria of an anime is like it sucks me in and I can't stop watching, like my 10 out of 10s, right, are like To Your Eternity, I was just like, I can't. And with Steins Gate, I was sick. I got sick, and so I was home. I wasn't working, and I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna watch Steins Gate. I need an anime, and people said it was good. So I started it, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is kind of a chill show. Okay, some time travel, like green bananas, all right. And then it was 10:30 at night when I got to the halfway point, and I was like, okay, I'll stop at halfway. That's what I told myself. I was like, I'll stop at halfway. For those who don't know, on the halfway point, or for those who do, on the halfway point is when the guys with guns bust in. They kill Mayuri, and he uses the time machine to go back, and then at the next episode she dies again, and I was like, it was at 10:30, and I watched the rest of the whole thing until 4 in the morning.
Yeah, you did.
I was like, I could not stop. I watched the whole show in one sitting, all 25 episodes in one sitting. Oh man! Oh,
Yeah.
and the story. I just want to say the story is so. Not only is it so good, it is so expertly done. Skylar's going to talk a lot about this. Time travel.
Oh yeah.
Time travel in shows can often be annoying and distracting, and there's always like, they did it wrong, quote unquote. It's still a theoretical thing, so hard to get wrong. But in Steins Gate, they do it right. They do it so well. It's so good. And and the story they weave through the whole thing all the way till the last, like, you don't know what's gonna happen till the last episode finishes. The last 2 minutes of the last episode. And like, for me, that's a huge plus, because for my whole life, I've been really good at predicting shows. I can guess what's going to happen in a show 6 episodes before something happens, and it freaks my wife out. We'll be sitting there watching a show, and I'll pull out my phone and I'll type a little message. 6 episodes later, I'll show her the note in my phone, and I predict what happens. And anytime a show can get me where I don't know what's going to happen, I get this feeling in the bottom of my stomach, and I get excited because I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm excited to be surprised. And Steins Gate surprised me along the way. I guessed a couple small things, but man, it just kept the hooks coming left and right. So anyway.
So lead us in a couple of those, Brett. No, yeah, keep going. What were some of those hooks? What were some surprises that got you?
I mean, halfway, the guy's busting in and just shooting Mayuri in the face. I didn't see that coming at all. Like I said one more episode, then I'm going to bed.
Or how about the sinking? Because after that halfway point, the characters learn that they have to like undo a lot of time traveling stuff that they had set up. Yep. One of which was going through the story of the shrine character, Ruka. Ruka. Whose message and some, housewives, deliberation changed their gender from the gender they didn't think they should be, which was male, to the gender they wanted to be, which is female. And there's a whole episode where our main character, Arte Ukarim, is going on a date with this character because that's what they always wanted in the main timeline. And in order to like fix everything, he needs to convince this character, this transgender character, that I need to undo that. Like, you're going to go back and you lived a happy life. You might have been unhappy about the circumstance, but unfortunately I don't have it fresh, but like that conversation happening in like 2010 anime or whatever whenever this aired, it blew my mind when I realized like how they handled it. I thought they handled it immensely well. I obviously need to see more about the community's response to the subject, but I did not expect an episode of that. I did not. I didn't, especially when they said that we're going to have to go back and undo things. I didn't realize what that meant for that character.
And Ferris's too. For me, Ferris's was way more powerful personally than Ruka. I just don't really. I don't have any personal experience to resonate with that. But with Ferris, where like her dad died, and he was like, and I'm not saying this is more impactful than Ruka. It's just different stories. But where her dad died, and he had to say, hey, I need to go back in time, and your dad's gonna die again. Like, holy frick! Oh man!
Yeah. So to go off on that real quick, each of the characters that sent back a message in time have essentially a core piece of their entire personality centered around whatever this message is. That includes Ferris, that includes Luca, even for the spy Moeka. That's still like when they go back and do that, it is still a core part of who she is and why she's doing what she's doing. That he essentially has to convince every single one of these characters to essentially give it up.
Yeah.
For effectively nothing.
Yeah. Dude.
Crew.
Moeka. And
that one messed me up.
Moeka and Yugo. Oh, Mr. Mr.
Clean.
Yeah, Mr. Clean.
Tenuji.
Mr. Tenuji. Dude.
Mr. Bulky or something, whatever you call him.
He's massive.
When he tells them he is FB and they're in that construction site and he's like, I'm FB. They were threatening my daughter. So I've been social engineering lonely young people to do these horrible things. and then I kill them and bury their bodies in construction sites, and then he shoots
Yes!
her, and then he shoots
then he
himself.
shoots her!
I was like, oh, jeez! I did not see that coming. Like, I thought he was gonna kill, Makise and Moeka, and then Okabe was gonna run away. Nope, he freaking murked himself, dude. He was like, I can't do this anymore. Gone. I was like, holy crap. Oh, man.
Yeah. Killing Moeka, I was like, okay. But when he killed himself, that's when I semi-lost. Was like, oh.
Oh.
And the episode where Okabe confronts Moeka in her room, and
In
he's
her
like
apartment.
Yeah.
physically fighting her, and she's freaking out. Like, oh man, that was intense.
She's-
My heart was like racing during
Yeah,
that
no,
episode.
she scares me.
Yeah.
Like, as a character, she legit scares me.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
there are
the-
horror films that don't scare me as much as that character does in Steins Gate.
So
Shut up.
Yeah.
here's the thing. I lived in Ohio for a while in the ghettos. And
Okay, continue.
the thing is that the thing that makes her character so scary is that it's real. I've met genuinely insane people. And the reason they are terrifying is because you legitimately do not know what they are going to do. With normal people, you know that they're going to follow, the rough guidelines of society, and they're going to be somewhat polite, even if you don't like each other that much. Like, you would really have to push someone for them to hit you across the face. Even though there's some recent memes about that right now. But
Sorry, I just
you know what I'm talking about.
We're referring to the Oscars in 2022
Will
Yeah.
Smith.
Yeah.
Will Smith.
with Will Smith.
Oh, what
yeah.
okay, anyway.
Well, this episode's coming out like months ahead of this event, just so you guys
But
know.
we're recording it the day after.
Yes, yes.
But anyways, and so, but with insane people, again, you legitimately do not know what they are going to do. And it's honestly terrifying. And so, her character,
Yeah.
when she's completely broken down like that, those are the kind of vibes I get from her, which is that she is so mentally unstable, you do not know what she is going to do. Or as soon as she sets her mind on something, which again, insane people, she's going to do literally everything she can to the destruction of herself to get it.
She, like, for a minute there, because, again, she surprised the stink out of me, she did. For a minute there, I thought she was kind of similar to the character in the more modern anime Komi Can't Communicate, where she was very shy. She like, speaking is difficult for them. So, like, getting above a whisper is hard to do. And she's very reserved. But no, when you see that she's restraining a lot of energy, like a lot of mental energy that would send her off the rails to be able to accomplish whatever task is right in front of her. When you understand that limiter she's putting on herself, and then it's gone, like Sky was referring to, terrifying. Like just this character is amazing. Like, we talk about our main boy, but this girl is amazingly well written. And they're all through and through. Like, many of these characters are unique, independent, their own motivations. They have conversations that they're not like so much of it doesn't seem so much like a script. It seems like a conversation, like a dialogue between two independently thinking people. Especially since all these characters are so, like, spread across the realm. The two people are the three people that have the most interaction, like, or background with each other are our main character Hououin, Mayuri, who he's kidnapped, quote unquote. Wink,
And
nod,
that
nod.
story
And
of
then-
why she thought she was
I
kidnapped
know
was so good. Oh man, that was so
I
good.
know. And then Daru, the hack, who he knew in high school, like, they follow their own crazy well enough, but none of the other characters in the rest do. Some of them will play along a little bit, and to Okarin's credit, our main character, he plays along with their crazy pretty well too, often enough. That it just allows some really, really interesting conversations.
Yeah.
Really, really does.
You just reminded me of another moment, or I was just remembered another moment that surprised me
Go.
in the show. That thinking about it still gives me chills when Suzuha finally is going back in time, right? She's going back to 1995, and she's like, I'm gonna go get the machine. I'm gonna go get the IBM 5100, and it's gonna be okay. And I'm like, okay, the show is starting to turn around, and then they get this letter.
No, Brett, no,
where
no,
she
no.
says that she failed. She forgot about the entire mission, and at the end of the letter, it says, "My life was a failure," and the ink trails down, and she commits suicide.
No!
I was like,
Brett!
what the heck? I thought this show was turning around. Like that, thinking about that moment, like my heart sank to my stomach, and I was like, what? And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, when my wife was watching the show, I watched it with her when she was watching it for her go-around. And I wasn't watching the show. I was looking right at her face for when that letter was read. And it just sank. She was like, what? She was depressed. Oh, man.
Before our listeners who may not have, by some craziness, not seen this anime yet, or
still watching this somehow,
introducing us, are going to watch this anime. There is a happy, the happy trails are down the road. Like, there's a lot of crazy that goes down. This is one of those shows that literally used to get as bad as it possibly can get before it gets better. Like, they do some rising action. They trio you along with these fun interactions and stuff, all throughout these really, really dark tones. But you gotta stick through to the end of it. The characters do. You're along for the same ride as them. You have to get to the end of the show.
Yeah. And the ending is good. It's a good ending to a show like this. It is a good ending. It's the reason why I put off watching the second season, Steins Gate Zero, for years, because I'm like, no, I just want to relish all of the moment. And Okabe's character, bro, at first when you're introduced to him, he's this kind of nonchalant, you're like, oh, this is just some teenagers in a
pretty crazy
an attic, just doing conspiracy theory stuff. And then when the conspiracy theories start to get true, and then when he constantly watches his best friends, his family, get murdered over and over and over and over and over and over, and he starts to just slowly break down. You watch his mental state deteriorate to the point of him in the second to last episode, or the last episode, just giving up completely. And oh man, his character arc through the show is so good.
Yeah, he has because they break him down to the layer, right? The way down layer. But when you see him, the layer that you get shown is a mask, and it's like a mask almost on a mask. Like he has layers in front of his normal personality that makes a lot of this eloquence, a lot of the funness that is his character. And to see that torn again all the way down to nothing. Yeah. He goes on a trip. It's not a soft one either. Okay, crew. I want to apologize for something. I mentioned before we started recording that I had some trivia for this show. But as we were talking, I have to talk about this this trivia now. I cannot wait. So I got 3 questions for you with some fun trivia that we can talk about the show and how this thing came to be.
Okay.
All right, first, true or false? Steins Gate was based off a manga.
False.
I know there is a manga, but I don't know if it's based off it or not.
It is false. Correct, Brett. Do you know what it's based off of?
I knew at one point, but I looked it up a couple years ago.
It's based off a video game. I believe it was a visual novel, noted, but it is almost one-to-one blow with a video game that this same company that did the anime produced years back. And they took a lot of Oh, that's why I want to talk about it. Is because there was bad endings to the game, believe it or not. Which is where Steins Gate Zero comes in, if I remember right. That's one of the bad endings.
It has parts of that, yeah.
Yeah. So Steins Gate the anime is the good ending of Steins Gate the game. Like, they have the same characters, it's the same overall story. I was told you missed some beats, but that is the overall bite. So it is not based off a manga. Okay, number 2. What does D-Mail, which is the code name that Ocarine gives his time traveling messages, stand for? What does D-Mail stand for? The D. What does the D stand for in D-Mail?
I know this. I actually know this.
Uh-huh.
I think they even talked about it in the show.
Oh, there's a couple references to what this is.
Yeah.
Is it delete mail?
It is not delete mail.
Oh, crap.
Nope.
What is it?
I'm sorry to say, Brett, you're not close. Kylie, you got a guess?
I'm trying to remember.
Okay, well, I'm going to call time there. We're going to pull this forward a little bit.
I'm gonna feel bad.
The writers of Steins Gate, the game and the show, were big fans of Back to the Future. So D-Mail literally means DeLorean mail after the DeLorean time machine in Back to the Future.
I knew that.
And that's not the only reference to Back to the Future in the show either. There are multiple references to the TV or to the 3-part movie series Back to the Future in Steins Gate.
I knew.
All right, one last question for you guys. Which of the characters in Steins Gate is based off a person in our history, including their name?
Dr. Nakabachi?
Not that I could find, no.
I don't know that one.
Nothing?
Mm-mm.
Okay. John Titor.
I
The
knew
blogger.
that. Yes, I remember now. Yes. Okay. Yes, I read a whole article on John Titor after I watched the show. Yeah. I remember that.
So John Titor in the show is a blogger that says he's from the future and he's trying to stop CERN, the evil company, that is the evil company in the show, from taking over the world with using time travel. Which you find out in the anime is one of the characters in the show is John Titor. But there's a point where Ocarine is like messaging John Titor and off their blog and says, "Hey, you said the same thing back in 2000 when you originally did that, but in the show, in the timeline, John Titor did not go back to the year 2000 like he did in our timeline. He went to a new destination next to where they are in the anime, like 2010 or whatever." So I thought it was really cool that he used the actual years and messages from the John Titor blog posts in our world to reference and probably inspire a lot of how this anime came to be.
Yep. In fact, so I just looked up one of the posts. Time Traveler 0 in a message on Time Travel Institute forums on November 2nd, 2000. Greetings. I'm a time traveler from the year 2036. I'm on my way home after getting an IBM 5100 computer system from the year 1975. My time machine is a stationary mass temporal displacement unit manufactured by General Electric. The unit is powered by 2 top-spun dual positive singularities and that produce a standard offset Tipler sinusoid. I will be happy to post pictures of the unit.
Which that unit, the IBM, was it 5100, is also the thing the characters are going for in the anime too. Yep. The same as John Titor was in our world. Yep. Very cool ties. Very, very, very cool ties.
Love it. Thanks for that. Thanks for those 3 little trivias, Braden. That was sweet.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
They're just too juicy. There's a lot of juice to the show. You can keep going if you need to.
I'm gonna give the 2 things I didn't enjoy about the show. I didn't enjoy 3 things, but I'm only gonna talk about 2 of them. One of them is kind of my own thing. So the 2 things I didn't enjoy about the show both have to do with Daru.
Really? Okay.
His constant what's the word I'm looking for?
pervitude.
Yeah. His like perviness can be whatever comedic relief every once in a while, but his just got annoying fast, and it was,
He was like-
constant and even really creepy sometimes. So like I'm
yeah.
not into it for that. So that kind of bothered me. And the other thing, as much as I
Okay.
fawn over the plot and the way they handled everything, the fact that he could just fix a time machine, even though they kind of explained it a little bit because he worked on the original, it still was like a little convenient. Like I have a big problem with convenience in anime, like I hate convenience, and he was a little convenient. Make that a lot convenient. So that was really the main problem I had with it, and but they even tried to make it better, so like points for that.
Yeah.
But those are the two.
On your first point, honestly, Daro reminds me of like all the creeps on the internet just weren't like behind aliases. They just like talk like that.
True.
Which I think is obviously what they were going for, which is not a very tasteful character, if we're really being honest.
Yeah.
It isn't.
Oh, I need to note though, I do not have a problem with the fact that he hacked CERN at all. Why? Because the year is 2022, and the French government just arrested the people responsible for hacking NVIDIA and Intel and all of these huge organizations. And do you know who the ringleader was? A 16-year-old boy.
That's so crazy.
I
Man,
have no
people are fucking
problem
brilliant.
thinking that Daru could have hacked CERN.
So I actually want to add on to that in that this is one of the very, very few anime that I would say actually handles hacking correctly. Because in pretty much all the media, it's like, oh, hey, here's a computer terminal. Okay, give me 3 minutes
Yeah. Yeah.
to hack in. No, that's not how that works. Unless you already know what systems they're running and what backdoors and what vulnerabilities already exist, and you have the tools to instantly access those vulnerabilities, you're not doing it in 3 minutes. But in this situation where it's kind of implied that, yeah, this has been an ongoing project for months, maybe even years, that's plenty of time for them to look around for these vulnerabilities and then go through them.
Yeah. And plus the year. This was the early 2000s, right?
Well, that's always how hacking
So
works.
I know, but my point is, if back in the early 2000s, security was not a concern, and it was even easier to get hacked into places. And he even mentioned some of the methodology. Like, so for those who don't know, me and Skylar both work in technology and fields related to cybersecurity. So like he even mentioned like, oh, it took all this time, but I was able to spoof these emails and get these admin credentials, and that let me into this place. And it was like, it was a more believable version of hacking than a lot of shows. So like, yeah, props for that. So I don't have problems with that. Just the time machine thing.
Yep.
I actually have something I want to toss in at the end of this section here on the negative side.
Yeah.
I said this exact same thing in Rascal Meets Predator Girl Senpai. It's a bit harem-y. Like, obviously, like, there was a straight line for the love interest, how that was going to go. But every side character that has a problem that needs to be solved is a woman.
Sort of.
Every single one.
Well, oh.
There-
You mean all of the... Okay. I mean, okay, Ruka is, at the time the problem was solved, was not.
That's true.
But
That's true.
wanted
Wants to
be,
identify as female.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. True.
And then turns into a girl and then goes on a date with the main character. I know they involved Daru in dealing with his
Suzuha.
with Suzuha's his backstory, but it just there's more characters in the world. I get it. It's anime. It's the field. In fact, if this was a visual novel video game, I understand that's exactly your field of writing. Yet I don't like it. I don't like when it comes up. I wish for more diversity in my anime. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I feel that. Skylar, what do you? Anything you want to add into the dislike pile while we're scooping it in?
Anything into the dislike pile?
Yeah.
We'll kind of get to it when we get into the technical, but you did mention this a little bit earlier, but this is one of the few stories of parallel timelines that I felt was done well. And without diving into that rabbit hole, because it'll take me a bit to explain that, the concept of essentially Mayuri dying, and that was like a constant along this set of parallel timelines, was a new take that I kind of liked.
Yeah.
Because what it did is it gave the timelines a set of continuity, where there are certain events that will happen no matter what you try to do.
Yeah.
And that's what the plot then essentially revolves around correcting. And so that take on parallel timelines is new. I haven't seen any other stories do it yet, and they did it really well. But
I'd agree.
even then, there are certain aspects of the parallel timelines that, kind of like you mentioned with the hack with Itaru, it's just convenient.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any last quick notes you guys have for the enjoyment section?
I'm looking forward to the technical part of this. Hey,
Me too.
there's some stuff there.
I'll add a couple more highlights for me. Like I think the sound design was actually really good for the show, even though it wasn't the highlight of the show. I don't think the animation or the sound or music was anything super special, but I did enjoy that when they were in the world, the cicadas were playing because it was summer in Japan. They had the
like classic cicada sound.
the sound of the time machine and stuff that was good stuff. It wasn't great, but it was good. And a couple other just moments that stand out. Like when I was watching it with my wife, and they were going back and doing all the timelines. They were undoing all the timelines. Every episode, she would like nudge me, be like, but Maki-sei's gonna die again. Maki-sei's gonna die again. And I'm like, I know, isn't it beautiful? You know that's coming, and you're like waiting for him to realize it, but he's so engrossed in what he's doing that he can't think about it right now. So then eventually, when he does realize it, you're like, what's he gonna do now? So yeah, and like the relationships between the characters, I'm just gonna say the characters, this was 24 episodes, but 25, and they made every character so well developed in their identity, in their motivation, in their relationship to the other characters, that all of them you felt an identity towards, a familiarity towards. And like you said, Braden, like Moeka is scary and Daru is annoying and Ruka is sweet and Mayuri is adorable. And like they just built these characters so well. And Skylar, to your point earlier, I'm just going to mention one last thing, which is when I tell anyone to watch this anime, and I tell everyone to watch this anime, I always tell them the same thing. I always say, it's amazing. The first half is pretty slow. It's like a roller coaster. You're building up. You're starting to see the landscape because you get hints along the way, like when they get the bloody head picture text a couple episodes before everything goes crazy. When he gets the text that says, I'm watching you. Like, there's some little stuff to keep you going. But I'm like, it's like a roller coaster. You're working your way up, and then all of a sudden, halfway, it's all downhill from there. So just stick in to the halfway point and you'll be good to go. But I think the beauty of, and Skylar, you mentioned this, the beauty of those first half being so slow is you get to connect intimately with these characters and see them in such a natural way that makes them so relatable and emotionally vulnerable because of how normal they are, that when things go crazy, you feel that much more intense. And it's so like even the pacing, even though I would normally have problems with a show where the first half is pretty slow and drags on, I actually did not mind it with this at all because of the entire composition and how it played into the emotions of the show for the big payout. So anyway, those are the last things I'm going to say. I could clearly gush about this show all day and night, But I think it's time we moved on to technical, unless Skylar, you had something else to add.
No, pretty much these are things that I want to dive into on the technical side.
Okay. Well, crew, just as a recap for enjoyment, 9.99, 8.5, and 9. That's pretty dang high. That's up there with Sword Art Online for our highest rated shows ever. Okay, let's jump into technical. So, for technical, this is a good time for me to let you know that you can access all of our rubrics, both our individual enjoyment rubrics and our technical ranking rubric, on our website, 310anime.com, 310anime.com. Find those there, then you can follow along. So for our technical rubric, what we do is we have 4 categories: art, story, characters, and delivery. And we go one at a time and rank the show on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being terrible, 5 being exceptional. 3 for all categories is meh, which is on par with what you would expect from a decent show. It doesn't stand out for being exceptionally good or bad. And we always start with art. Art includes music, animation, sound design, art style, intro and outro songs.
Yep. With 1, let's start with 1. 1 in this category is frequently bland, poorly done, and or repetitive. And 5 being exceptional, as the composition always delivers powerful moments in excellent fashion. Crew, this show is a lot of things. It is not an artistic masterpiece. It is not a artistic masterpiece.
No.
I agree. It is not. It is not the strong point of the show at all.
Yes.
The way I would describe the Steins Gate art is that it is exactly what it needs to be, and no more, no less.
Nothing more, nothing less. I agree.
I don't know. Maybe I just need to watch more anime in like this time period in the 2010s. But the animation, like it seems like, or the animation / art style seems unique in that they have like their own style. Like this is not copy pasta anime. They have their own way of drawing figures, and everybody's like either tall and lanky, or in Daru's case, he has the rounder figure. And it's everybody feels like almost towards that Code Geass thin, but more in a realistic side. And unfortunately, it lends to a lot of shots, a lot of stills, where the characters are really ugly.
Yeah.
Like they get cut and like the head looks bent. The mouth looks like weird.
Yeah.
Well, and those are called smears, if you're talking what I think you are.
I don't know if you are, because I remember like looking at a couple things, and they like the movements just didn't seem to keep bodies in a proportion or in like a motion. They just seem to like wiggle.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I wish I could pull up exactly this scene. I was rewatching this today to go over that. That said, I do also shout out on a different line for the animation portion. Is they had a good sense of keeping motion on screen. I remember a scene where it has Ocarine, it has Kirisu, and it has Mayuri on screen, and Kaori and Mirisu Mayuri and Kirisu were talking. And Mayuri hands something to Ocarine, and he like does this whole like thing, like he almost drops it and he's flaying about with it, and he's trying to pick it up and he looks at it and all that stuff. Like they, in terms of animation, they kept like many times live natural movements on the screen, where they had characters interacting with the world, and putting those in many shots. So I wanted to give him a shout out for that, for putting that effort in. For putting that effort in. I
agree with Skylar's statement that it is almost a minimalist animation style, where you get what you need, not a whole lot else, and that could be considered bland and repetitive. So I'm the one who probably liked the show as much or more than anyone here, and anyone who's probably listening. I would even give the art a 2.5.
Are you taking art as the whole thing or the art style?
No, the whole thing. I would propose a 2.5. I could be convinced to go down to a 2. I could be convinced to go up to a 3. But let's talk.
I would personally give it a 3.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay. How come?
Well, because like I said, it does exactly what it needs to be, no more, no less, which is exactly what it needs to be. And so that's what every anime should do. The animation should serve the purpose of the story of the characters. And unless they're doing something to call attention to itself, for example, like unless there's a reason to really call attention to the music or to something else, it shouldn't. And I think in that sense that Steins Gate executed on that rather well.
Now, I was laughing because you said the comment of this is what animes at a baseline should do. And that's the same comment I made on characters last week when we were talking about Gurren Lagann. It's like should be where a baseline of characters are, and it's better than most anime.
But I think in this case, I know I see what you're saying, Braden. But
Yeah.
I think in this case, it's a little different, I think, in the way that I'm not sure how to explain what I'm thinking. Anyway,
So to me,
but let me just say that I agree with the 3.
Go ahead, Skylar.
well, just to elaborate on your point, where it's like, okay, what is the purpose of the animation? What is the purpose of the art in anime? It is to convey the stories and the progression that the characters go through. That is the point of art and animation in anime. And so where Steins Gate does that and does that well, that's where I'm saying that it nails that side. I'm not saying that all anime art and animation should be like Steins Gate, because it shouldn't. This worked for Steins Gate, but pick another story, and if they were to do the exact same level of animation and the exact same art style, it would not
This
work.
would not
and I would
work
dock
for
it
Attack
that.
on Titan. Let's just. So are we saying
Or Berserk.
So are we saying a 3? I would rather them do this animation than what they did to Berserk. Are you kidding me? Have you guys seen the CG version of Berserk?
Yeah, I have.
It is a disgrace. It is awful. It is atrocious. It is horrifically wrong.
I sat through a lot of that.
No.
Brett, we can talk about that in another episode.
It's bad.
Our viewers can put it in the comments saying, please talk more about this in the Berserk episode. Put that out as soon as you can. That we're gonna put that over there. Noted.
dear.
Yes.
They did Guts dirty. Okay.
So I want to just talk a point, just to be, I guess the devil's advocate is the best way I've said about it. It's like like I said, this is not baseline typical anime art style. They have a twist on it that's their own. You know, it's Steins Gate because they have their own weird flavor line to it. And with that note, does the animation, does the art style lead to powerful moments that happen in excellent fashion to our good line?
I will say this. I think that there are times when it delivers powerful moments well, such as when Mayuri has multiple deaths, specifically like the train scene, the slow motion, it's unexpected. It's just the bright lights with her figure slowly descending, or when Okabe sees Makisei's body lying in the blood, and but I think that it's not often. I think it's every once in a while there's a cool moment, but for the most part, I'm with Skylar that it's what it should be. And also, Braden, I agree with you that there are some parts where it's a little janky or a little whatever. Even in episode 1, when they're like in the cafeteria, there's some kind of weird hiccup animation. So like not hiccup, but it just looks a little just not great. So like, yeah, I would propose to answer your question that I don't think it deserves a 3.5. I think a 3 is where it should be.
Okay. And I just want to toss out really quick. Music worked.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything about the music here. Intro, outro.
It wasn't bad with random saxophones. So there's that.
The music was just like the intro and outro song specifically. More like they're not really in my taste at all, but they seem to be more aligned with the time 2010s of how those intros and outros went. A lot of, I think, piano and like like a somber music overludes. Yeah, it's fine. It's all in all fine. I'm not pushing for a 4 at all. I'm agreeing with the 3. I just want to make sure we flush that out.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Good call. Okay, so we put a 3 for art. Let's get into story. Story includes plot devices, tone/mood, continuity, world building, pacing, rules and systems, tropes. 1, terrible, frequently nonsensical, inconsistent, boring, confusing, ambiguous, unoriginal, and disappointing. 5, exceptional, always consistent, well-paced, comprehensible, consummate, on point, and unique.
Let me throw it out
Skylar,
there.
please start us off. Please do.
I want to throw it out into a 5 territory.
Yes.
Because again, like, one of my critiques is that it's like, if I cannot propose or have any suggestion or idea on how they can make it better, then I just have to go under the assumption that it is as good as it can be.
So you
And
go ahead.
And so I need to tag onto this.
Yes.
Thank you. 1 second. And not only is it at its peak performance, but it is exceptional.
Yeah.
Like we said, the buildup of every single scene and interaction from the start of the show towards the end of it is flushed out, intricate, and needed to bring about a very powerful ending, an extremely worthwhile ending that leaves an impact on its due, and it does it in a way that we can understand.
Yes.
They do timey-wimey nonsense. They do some science throwing, and they also very much back up their hacking sources. And they also lay themes like the goo banana laying to goo people that Sir was time warping, and make sure that the rules in the world that they're working in is start to finish brick solid.
Yes.
We can't poke holes in this. It is what it is.
In fact, Braden, there's 2 words you said there that I want to touch on real quick before Skylar goes into the time travel piece, because I know he wants to and we want him to. So you said intricate. I liked this show just as much the second time around. Almost. If it was a 10 when I watched it the first time around, it was a 9 when I watched it the second time. And Skylar, I know you're not as interested, but let me throw you this. You see things in episodes throughout the entire first half of the show, little details that you're like, oh, wait a second, that's coming up at this, and they say things, lines happen, like things happen for the entire first half. This is what I think makes the story, even if it has things like the convenience of the time travel fix and the fact that at the end, Makise can kind of remember him. Even if we take a couple of those little hiccups, the entire first half of the show, which is slow and debatably boring, becomes incredibly exciting the second time you watch it, because you pick up on things you had no idea were important the entire first time you watched it. So you can watch the show again right after, with the first half now being this exciting thing where you're looking for details. And when a show can do that, it is excellent. It is excellent.
Well, and that is why I am comfortable throwing the story into the 5 territory. Because one of the other stories out there that I would easily throw into the 5 range, personally, is Full Metal Alchemist. For the same reason. Is because from the very start, there is a very well-defined set of rules. And there's honestly a lot of parallels, so it will come up in the recommendation phase as well. But essentially, here are the hard set of rules. One rule got broken, and the entire plot now revolves around why and how it was broken.
Heck yeah. Now, Skylar, jump into the time travel stuff, because that's a big part of the story. Why was it technically good?
So, time travel is something that's very, very hard to do well. The reason that I threw out convenience is something that I really don't like, is exactly that. It's convenient when you go back in time and you change something, and then there's some alternate timeline down in the future that it now is. One of the few time stories that I've read that did this really well was actually a book series called Artemis Fowl. And in one of these books, and so in one of these books, what happens is that there is a sickness that is plaguing someone that the main character, Artemis Fowl, cares really deeply for. However, the only thing that can cure this disease is something that comes from an animal that went extinct several years ago. And he knows because he was the one who killed it. And so he has the ability to go back in time to try and recover this animal so that he can fix this problem that is now happening in the future. And so he goes back in time, and so spoilers for this book. So if you want to read it, stop now and go read the book as well. So he goes back in time.
You should be in there already.
It's a great book series. So he goes back in time, and they go through this whole series of events. He gets the animal, and he comes back to the future. However, his memory of how things play out is not exactly how things went. And so it is a cause for a lot of problems that they now have to work through during the story. And then as they get towards the end of the story, the person that is working with that essentially enabled this time travel thing to happen. He essentially turns to her and says, hey, make sure you don't mess with his memories or we'll have to go through this again. Her response is essentially like, oh, sorry, I already did. And so, and that explains why his memory didn't line up at all. And this guy, the whole premise is that he is a genius. In addition, when they come back to the future, they bring someone with them they weren't supposed to, and they essentially jump off the timeline earlier and cause the problem that they now have to go back and fix.
Skylar, I love you, dude. We're gonna need you to bring this back on, right back on some Steins Gate. You've done this for about 3 minutes.
So the whole thing about that is that it's that consistency where every point in the timeline checks out, and them going back to essentially try and fix this problem is what caused the problem in the first place. And so with Steins Gate, that's kind of what I mentioned with Mayuri, where the thing that made this one interesting and set it apart from other timelines is that they couldn't just convenience themselves out of it of like, oh, hey, well, I know that she's going to die here, so I want to take her over there. We're now in an alternate timeline where she's alive. I have the future that I want, and we're free to go forward. And so because there is that consistent problem, there is that consistent death that they cannot change the future for, it essentially brings it back into this interesting realm of time travel isn't going to fix this problem.
Yes.
And that's where they now have to go and start trying to figure out other things to resolve this problem. And even then, they don't know it's going to resolve the problem.
And that's the beauty of what I think this story did time travel wise, which is that they go through all of this stuff and they literally gain nothing because they have to undo all of it. The answer to all of their quote unquote problems was not to change or alter their lives. It was to live their lives knowing that what has happened was meant to happen. And even the event that started the show in episode 1 with Makise Kurisu dying, she didn't actually die in the first place, technically. Like, they did fix that. The only thing they gained from the whole show is the fact that she stayed alive because Okabe sacrificed himself to do that. And so the only thing they really gained is that at the end of the show, she did recognize him and have some memories from the alternate world lines. But really everything else, they just had to go back and ship off the 5100 and like, so good.
And that's why it works.
Yeah.
Is because, again, pretty much every other story where there's time travel, it's, oh, you go back in time, you fix that one problem, alternate time, is now good, gold, we're done. Let's get out of here. But because they didn't do that here, that's what puts it on a new level.
Okay. We've talked a lot.
Yep. Yes, we have.
We've said that the story is exceptional. We're going with 5.
Going with
Yep.
5.
It is an exceptional story. And we may continue this train in characters, which includes design, development, motivation, action, inaction, relationships, personality. 1, terrible. The characters are frequently unreasonable, confusing, inconsistent, unreasonably static, dynamic, and annoying. 5, they are always understandable, consistent, relatable, adequately static, dynamic, and reasonable. I'm going to propose a 5, and let's talk through it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the notes that would make this thing fall from 5.
I am too.
Because when I think into the other 5 character line we've given to Haikyuu, we just love that every time they had a new character on stage, every time they introduced somebody into the mix, we understood their passions, their powers, their involvement in the story. We liked them and hope to see more of them in the future. And here it hits that exact same note, and again, like I said earlier with story, is that it's not only just like, is it like a tight, well realized thing, it's a beautiful, powerful package of characters that we have here.
Yeah.
They have a wide range of personality and involvement into the story and into each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I have.
Well, and here's the thing.
Go ahead, Sky.
Well, sorry. Here's the thing about the characters. The characters is why it takes half of the series to ramp up.
Yeah. That's a good point. Brett, what are you going to say?
I was going to say that here's a fun question for you guys.
Yeah.
Do you know any characters that are not these main characters that we know of? Makise Kurisu, Okabe, Mayuri, Suzuha, Daru, Moeka, Ruka, Ferris, Mr. Tenoji, and his daughter, and then Makise's dad, Dr. Nakabachi. What other characters are there? There's none. There's basically none. The only characters you get introduced to in this show are the ones that you are supposed to care about, and you learn about them. And they did not introduce any superfluousness into this show, which I think was amazing. There was like the dad of Ruka, who helps get the computer, but that's like it.
Yeah,
that's like it. What were you gonna say, Brady?
I'm thinking about it. That tight cast of characters. You're right. No, that's it. Honestly, that tight cast of characters can be played as like a theater play. Or maybe a reality TV show with like a limited number of sets. Like the number, like not only we're talking characters, the number of sets or like locations where they do stuff is a pretty limited number if we're really thinking about it. Some transitional phases, sure. But there's the shrine, there's the cat cafe, there's the lab, there's outside the lab. And I want to say maybe 3 or 4 more, but I'm saying it's like, this is a very tight season show, which again I think has to do back with its video game heritage and having a limited number of backdrops and how the game progressed.
Fair.
Which is entirely to its benefit, honestly.
Yeah.
Do more of that. If you're not going to go absolutely bonkers with your backdrops, keep it tight.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep it core like it does here.
I think the beauty of the show is they only focused on the things that they knew they wanted to focus on. They didn't try to do extra stuff, and that's why it was so exceptional.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Braden, what you're referring to is essentially a one-room story, where essentially all the big plot points and like 90% of the story takes place in essentially one location.
Well, not one location. Because I know that type of story. It's like the Glass Menagerie. It's one of my all-time favorite plays. It's a fantastic play.
I'm just saying that it is a genre of storytelling, and it is a technique that, depending on your story, can be done really well. But to Brett's point,
Rear Window.
Yeah, and to Brett's point, on top of that as well, like, yeah, again, one of the points that I'll usually dox a story for pacing on is if they spend too much time on something. when they could have been focusing something else. But kind of like you said, where they have this core cast and that's all they focused on, that was necessary. It was required so that by the time, using your analogy again, the roller coaster starts going downhill, it's moving.
It's real exciting. So I'm trying to think of the notes that make this thing fall from a 5. And we've already said it, so I'm just going to recap. The excessive perviness, probably somehow unbelievable perviness of Daru, the hack, where I don't know how like translatable. I mean, maybe he could be that extreme line of character, but it seemed like they took somebody hiding behind an internet alias and made him say those things in actual life,
which to me makes him relatable and makes sense, even though he's an annoying character. And maybe they went a little too far. So I would say Daru isn't a 5 character in and of himself, but he contributes to a 5 level cast.
Sure.
But yeah,
and
but that's a good point.
The other note I'll toss in is the one I brought up, is that all the side characters are female. It is a harem. It lends itself to the harem anime trope. It does. That is how it goes. And they could have diversified the cast in any respect to help line up the characters better. I don't think those 2 notes take it down from a 5. I don't think that's enough to take it to a 4.5 by any respects.
I agree.
But can you guys think of anything else any other character notes that are impacted here?
I really can't. I'm even going to add another positive that we haven't talked about at all on the whole podcast yet.
Go for it.
And it's relationships. The romance. Not only did this show have everything we've talked about, but it had a romance. And it was a good romance. And they had a sweet moment before he goes and thinks she's going to die. Like, they even paid off on a romance in a sci-fi time travel, brilliantly executed story. The relationships of the characters themselves. I'm going to put down what we've all said so far, a 5.
Yep.
Okay.
Which, to recap on the point, is the characters are always understandable, consistent, reasonable, adequately static, dynamic, and relatable.
And when we
100%.
say reasonable, we don't mean they are a reasonable person. We mean that based on their character design, they are reasonable based on their character.
They're reasonably acting as
their character should, given their design.
Yeah.
Skylar.
The one last note that I will throw on is that for me, the biggest thing I look for in characters outside of just their design is their motivation and how much they are consistently acting in accordance to their motivations. And in this one, they were always consistent to their motivations, and their motivations always clearly drove their actions.
And made sense. Even when they didn't.
Even little Mayuri. Even little Mayuri. All for quirkiness.
I think Moeka stands out as the motivation character here from everybody. Crazy. Okay, anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, they, them, we have reached a category which this show created. We did not have delivery as a category for this podcast when we were creating it until we started talking about Steins Gate. And we said that the delivery of a show matters. And so I propose the fastest rating technically we have ever done and say that this is an automatic 5. Because the reason this category exists is for this show.
I disagree.
What?
I disagree, Brett.
Okay.
I disagree with you, sir.
Say why.
That is wrong.
Say why.
So, and we talked about this before. We talked about this exact thing I'm about to bring up in so many other episodes of this podcast, because we always talk about this show when it comes to delivery, is that the sub of this show brings it down. It brings it down.
Wait. No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. The voice acting of the Japanese voice actors is not nearly on par with the English actor. It does not portray the characters, and further, it drives it down of an impact.
Okay, wait, hold on. Let me remind you that we do not hold a bad dub against any show. We don't hold a bad dub against a show. So I'm proposing we flip it.
No. Absolutely not. Because if because the sub is the baseline version of the end. No, I don't want to say that. I want to say that. What I want to say is it's a 3. Like this facet of our delivery is average at best. And takes away from the experience of the main of the English version, the way you're supposed to intend to watch it.
So to both of your points, I do agree that if you watch subs, it's not that it necessarily drags down it does drag down your experience because you're not experiencing the full effect of essentially Okabe's
character
flowery language.
Mm-hmm.
However, with what we've also said about the delivery section is that we will never docket points for having a bad dub because that's just kind of expected. And so to Brett's point, if there are times that it has an exceptional dub, then in that sense it does kind of score bonus points because a good dub is out of the ordinary and unusual. And so in that sense, what it loses in the bad sub is made up for by the exceptionally well done dub.
And
to the point that
thank you, go ahead.
Sorry, to the point that this is the only anime that I have seen dubbed, not subbed.
Mm-hmm.
And we have specifically told people not to watch the sub, to watch the dub. That is how the show should be watched. So if it was the other way around, let's say that pick any other show. Let's say, I don't know. Let's say it was
Demon Slayer.
Demon Slayer. Yeah. Let's say it was Demon Slayer. Let's say that Demon Slayer had an absolutely atrocious dub. Let's say that they had an issue with delivery and all the audio files got corrupted. And so they had to dig up all of the crew from the animation studio who barely knew English to give the English dub version because they had to ship it tomorrow. I would not hold that against them at all because you're not to watch the show that way. And I have specifically said for previous episodes, this has a bad dub, but I'm not holding that against it. I'm just commenting that it does. I've said that repeatedly.
Okay, but I would absolutely hold that against the show. I would absolutely hold it against the show because usually when I hear a bad dub, it's fine. It's not great by any means, but it's fine, right?
I disagree, but sure, for you, sure.
Yes. No, I mean, it's something like when we were listening to Gurren Lagann, I would sit at work and just listen to the English run through, and it was fine. Like, it wasn't anything extraordinary. It wasn't drawing me in, but it was fine, right? If it was bad, I would not allow a show to get away with that. That is below par for what I expect from an average show.
See, I'm pretty sure that we had said that an average show is not expected to have a good dub because it is not made in English. It is made in Japanese. A dub is an afterthought. It doesn't need to have a good dub to score decently.
I know, but also can't have a bad dub. I mean, you can have your opinion about the quality of it, but like there could be some really atrocious dubs I can imagine in my brain.
Sure.
What I'm saying here, let's bring this back onto here, is that the delivery here and the sub translation, 2 points on this market, significantly hit a par experience for the viewers of that anime.
If they watched it in Japanese.
If they watched it in Japanese, correct. If they had a average voice acting line and all the beat by beat things they said in the English voice acting as this translation, that sits a lot better, but they don't. They take the Japanese translation into English and significantly mar the show because of that. I do not give this show a 5 on that point. I can't. I mean, I can see why we do because of the bonus points we want to give this exemplary showcase of English voice acting. However, those points mar that 5 for me.
I will not budge from a 5 at all, because the dub is so exceptional that you should not watch it in Japanese. You just should not. It is not how the show is intended to be watched. It is intended to be watched in English. And just like when I watch a Japanese show that is intended to be watched in Japanese, if I watch it in English, I should expect a suboptimal experience. So, and I don't feel like I'm being inconsistent by saying that. I've said that for our entire podcast, 12 episodes by this point. So I am going to strongly propose a 5 because the delivery of the dub is always believable, genuine, understandable, elevating, and enriching compared to any other show, any anime that we've ever seen. It blows everything out of the water, and it would be disrespectful to give it anything less than a 5, in my opinion.
I will. Okay, well, I'm gonna finish. I will allow the 5 in the merits that the dub is getting bonus points. But if a show does this to me, it does not get a perfect 5 on its own merit. It gets it because it did something truly exceptional.
Yes,
that's what I'll allow.
I agree. I totally agree with you that if we were doing this objectively and taking the sub into consideration, it would probably be a 3.5 or a 4, but the dub alone gets 2 bonus points. It brings it up, like, bar none. Skylar, do you have any other thoughts?
Well, just kind of like we mentioned before, the way that I've been rating shows as well has been a bad dub is expected for a normal anime. And so a bad dub has never dragged down the rating of an anime for me. And so in that camp, yeah, like you said, where it's like, if I were to give it a rating, not looking at the dub, I'd probably give it, well, I can't really give a rating. I would guess somewhere between a 3.5 and a 4, but I haven't seen the sub, so I can't really comment on that side of the scoring. But because of how exceptionally well done the dub was, yeah, that's essentially where it's exceeding the expectation of being a normally a bad to dub to this is a required viewing in dub.
Yeah. Yep.
So kind of along the same lines of you, Braden. Whereas like on its own merits, 3.5 to a 4, probably. I'd have to actually watch the sub version to see that. But the dub raises it on those bonus points.
I want to touch it again. Knowing my objections, and including Brett's point of it, this thing gets like it is exceptional. I would have put this below a 4.5, even so, because I would still tell people to watch it in the English version.
Fair.
I'm not saying it drives down to a 3.5 or 6 because there is a excellent version of the show. I'm just saying, if we're executing on both sides of the coin, one side of the coin holds it back. By allowing bonus points, I'm fine with. I can allow a 5 here.
If we had ever historically held back a show for a bad dub, I would be on board, but we've never done it.
Now, okay, you guys say this though. I know I have in my brain what an on par Japanese voice act is and on par English voice act is, and I have an equivalence between them.
No, I'm saying we have had shows on our podcast where there was a bad dub, but we have not held back the technical score for it. That's what I'm saying. So I think it would be unfair to do it now when we haven't done it before.
I will allow that I don't remember that part of the discussion. So yes, that's fair. Specifically,
and you and I didn't agree on this, but the Jujutsu Kaisen movie, the dub, in my opinion, was bad. The main character was forcing the air through their chest when they were doing the acting, and it made them sound a bit strained, which is not a good voice acting technique. So I felt the dub was bad, and I said it on the podcast when we did it that night, but I was like, it's a dub. I'm not going to say we hold it back. Just letting you know, it's a bad dub. So anyway.
And to that same point, that's when I said, well, I mean, it was about average for a dub, so I didn't really think about it too much.
Fair. Anyway, we've beat this horse beyond death. It is now on the river Styx, being ferried along.
As a green goose.
Okay.
Yep.
We have finalized a 3 for art, and all the rest are 5s. If you watch,
Wow.
If you watch the dub, which makes this, drum roll please, a 9, a 9 out of 10 technical show.
That is our highest ever rated technical show. And even further, if it had gotten a 4 in delivery, it would still be our highest ever rated technical show. Because the only thing that comes close are, let's see, what do we got here? Wait, what is this line? Why is this on
That does not look right.
Karakano? That's not it at all. What is that?
Well, we have
Where's our technical rating story?
we have the first 14 of SAO,
yeah,
8.25.
and then if you scroll down the list, it says Karakano got reviewed at 8.25.
That's
Or no, maybe it's Jujutsu Kaisen movies there, and it's hiding.
Oh, that's the Jujutsu Kaisen movie. My apologies. I need to move that on the spreadsheet.
Okay,
That's the
Jujutsu
Jujutsu Kaisen movie.
Oh.
And Sword Art Online first 14 episodes have an 8.25. So, like I said, if delivery had gotten a 4, that would have driven the score down from a 9 to a 9 or an 8.5, and still beat out our other 2 anime that are in the runner-ups. This show is far and beyond a technical wonder when it comes to anime
Yeah.
and story delivery.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I just fixed the spreadsheet. Sorry about that. Okay. Friends, thank you
Wow.
for joining us for this episode. We are going to give some recommendations now for what you should watch if you liked Steins Gate. Skylar, you had one to start with. Hit us with that one again.
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. So, I guess a bit of a spoiler if we ever cover that in a future episode, but that is an anime that I have given a 10 rating to. Because the story on that one is incredible. It is easily in my top 5. Like, not even a competition, it's in my top 5. It is amazing.
Sweet.
And yeah, you just need to go watch it.
It's a long
It's just
one.
it's
Brace
it
yourself
is
for a good long sit. This is one of those, like, somebody recommending to you some Brandon Sanderson novels. Like, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of story, but man, it is worth it.
It is a good story.
Good recommendation. I like that.
Brotherhood is 64 episodes, for those wondering. Okay, any other recs, Skylar?
Ooh, not off the top of my head. No.
Okay, Brayden.
I'm trying to
Do
think
you
of
have any?
some time stories.
Yeah, so I'm gonna bring up the one I've already mentioned in the show, and then I have another one I'm gonna toss out there as well.
Okay.
Of just, the excellent animes. First of all, being Rascal Dreams of Bunny Girl Senpai.
Yeah.
Honestly, they have almost the exact same story beat. Strangely enough. Like, you have the main guy character runs into a mysterious girl character who has a sister-like side character who has issues that prevail, like, all of them prevail throughout the entire show. And it deals with a completely different set of conversation. Like, the core of it is a lot more romance, a lot more flirting interaction between the main guy and the main girl character, and also it deals a lot with a lot of mental trauma for teenage year as subjects. But I think people could really translate some of those identity issues to things that they've maybe experienced or seen the family members experience in their life, and it really is an excellent demonstration of those characteristics. So, Rascal Dreams of Bunny Girl Senpai. And then I also will toss in there, for those of you that love time travel nonsense, ReZero.
Yes, that was
Starting Life in Another
that
World.
was my recommendation.
Yeah! Because they do not allow our main character to get through any single checkpoint in the time loop they get stuck in until he figures out every single part of that puzzle. So it's not quite of a spread of involvement with the other characters being involved in the time travel stuff by the rules of the show. However, it's a very impactful, emotional adventure isekai anime that is ReZero starting left in another world.
I second ReZero. Definitely. Skylar third's
Make that a
ReZero.
Yeah.
45 sold. Okay, my recommendations are going to be number one. I'm gonna do one that I also mentioned, To Your Eternity. The main reason I'm doing To Your Eternity, it is another 10 on my list. It is unbelievable and will keep you watching and engaged and just it's a totally different genre.
Brett, did you say another 10 in your list?
It is a 10 on my list. Yep. So yeah, To Your Eternity.
I'm just saying, this was a 9.9 at the start. Did it raise it to a 10 into the conversation?
No,
is that what we're doing
it's
here?
still a 9.99. Still a 9.99. But yeah, it's To Your Eternity is incredible. And then I'm actually going to recommend another one that, again, totally different genre. It's more of an adventure show, but you grow to like the characters. There's some interesting mystery that you figure out along the way. Brayden won't like this. I'm going to recommend Astra Lost in Space.
No, I don't like it.
Yeah.
That's fine though, but I don't like it.
I don't care. It's my recommendation. And I'm recommending Astra Lost in Space. Yeah, I think it hits a lot of good points. It's definitely not as serious or intense, and it's only 12 episodes, nice and short. But yeah, it's got some mystery. It's got some good characters. Give it a shot. Maybe you don't like it like Brayden. Maybe you do. Either way, that's my recommendation. And then lastly, I'm going to give one more. And it's another one that has some
My mind trembles.
some time travel-y stuff in it, and it's kind of unique, kind of interesting. I didn't like it as much as the other two, and I don't like it as much as Steins Gate, but it is still a pretty good show. I'm going to recommend Tokyo Revengers. I gave Tokyo Revengers an 8. So it's still pretty high up there on my list. It's got some time travel-y stuff. It's basically if Rascal does not dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, but Rascal was a gang member.
Oh, wow.
That's
Okay.
That's the show.
Crew, can we
it's
just... Can I just quit my job and just watch anime? So I can review them for this show. Can I just do that? Are we there yet?
Yeah. How do we make this our
We have
full-time gig?
50 views on our Jujutsu Kaisen. 60 views on the Jujutsu Kaisen video.
We're making it.
We're there, right? We're making it, crew.
All right.
Oh.
Any other thoughts from you guys? We give our recommendations, we give our ratings. We ask people to check out our website, 310anime.com, 310anime.com for our rubrics. Any final thoughts from you guys?
No, I'm just looking at next week's anime and I'm just like, man, we're just going, aren't we?
Brayden, why don't you tell us what we're doing next week?
Yes, absolutely. This one is a surprise to everybody that sees it as just one of the nicest little heartwarming shows you could ever see. Next week, we will talk about A Place Further Than the Universe, an adventure story, a high school, coming to age story of 4 young girls driving against all odds to get to Antarctica.
Yes.
And we'll have so much to talk about it. Completely different point, but another fantastic show. I'm very excited to talk about next week.
So for those who've been following our podcast, you might notice we're starting to ramp our way up into the good shows, right? And I heard some feedback earlier that was like, man, why are you guys doing all these mid shows? Talk about some good ones. And I was like, hey, we didn't want to waste our first few podcasts on the great stuff. We wanted to get into the swing of things.
Okay, well, we at the time of getting that feedback, we have released Cells at Work, Haikyuu, Bell, and the Jujutsu Kaisen episodes. Those are the 4 episodes we released. Since then, you guys have enjoyed Cowboy Bebop, Mob Psycho 100, Sword Art Online, Barf Slime Garbage Crap, Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, and now Steins Gate. So we have absolutely No, I don't know about wrecked, but like just like been screaming at the top of our lungs about how much we love or hate anime the last like I don't know month and a half, 2 months. How long have we been doing this? It's been a minute.
It's been a bit. This is gonna be episode 11 if you include our bonus Jujutsu Kaisen movie episode. If you haven't seen that, give it a listen. But let's put a pin in this one. Really, thank you all so much for being here, for listening. We appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind this one time, if you've seen any of those shows and you know someone who's seen them, just send it to them and say, hey, what do you think of these 3 weird guys? And do you think the podcast is any good? And then tell us in the comments. That'd be really cool. We'd really love your feedback. But until next time, talking about Antarctica, Johnny.
Good night, everybody.
See ya.
Ah, to hell with it. If Steins Gate so decrees, then so am I compelled to behave. Hououin Kyouma accepts the challenge with gusto. Deception is my forte. Let the world beware. Hear me, privileged companions. Time is ours. Hououin Kyouma's mind recognizes no limit. Neither does his reach. Heave anchor! This ship of fools is about to embark!